Thank you for taking him under your wing. Looks up to you. Is Lou not joining us?
It's difficult for her to get away in the evenings, you know. Cooking the tea, putting the kids to bed, getting the stuff ready for school tomorrow.
And that's all her job, is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I work hard all day, I need a break.
She works hard and all. When's her break? You know, you're sounding dangerously like some 1950s throwback here, Mick.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 356 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that had a 4-day-old fish pie for dinner tonight. So let's place bets on how this one's going to work out. I'm Gavin.
And I'm sore.
Oh, what you sore with?
I'm sore with sore legs.
Oh. Preemptive auction talk.
We are having an estate sale.
We are?
We, the royal we
Okay.
of the company that I work for,
Gotcha.
in which I, do auctions. We also do
Do you
estate
want me to hit
sales.
this button again?
No.
Okay.
So we're having this estate sale in a house that's almost entirely books.
House of Books.
It's a house of books. There's some furniture in it.
Made of books.
And there's some photography, mostly of insects, and some microscopes and some dead insects in slides. So that's kind of cool. This man was a bachelor
No kidding.
his whole life. Whole life.
Insects were his mistress.
And rightly so, because, there's some really good insect books in that house, as well as mushrooms and World War I, World War II, Civil War, the War of 1812,
Books about war, you surprise me.
the Roman Empire. all the dude hits are in this house.
Anything about sharks?
Probably. I don't remember anything specifically about sharks, but there's a lot of fish books and mammal books and animal
enough.
kingdom books and stuff. Yeah. It's funny though, because he had every single Civil War book except for the Shelby Foote Civil War books, which is what everybody had who likes the Civil War. And he had every book on the Second World War, including books on not just German infantry and artillery and stuff, but also Japanese and Russian and Italian and some others, but did not have the Winston Churchill Second World War book series.
Oh, he's going
which
up in my estimations.
everybody has. I come across that set in practically every house I go to clear out, to the point where I don't take them anymore unless they have their dust jackets, because it's rare that they still have their dust jackets. So it was really fun, but also exhausting. Also, he owned 2 novels, Robinson Crusoe and Shogun.
Oh, James Clavell.
Yes,
It's quite dirty.
that's it.
Shogun's quite dirty. That's what I remember about that.
Right. You haven't watched
That's
the
it.
series on Hulu? I don't think so. I mean,
It's Eric Van Loostbader books that I'm thinking of. They were quite dirty.
are you thinking what was that one about the priest who has an affair and they made it into a series?
Sister Act?
No. The Thunderbirds? Not
Nuns
the
on the Run?
Thunderbirds. Not Thunderbirds, but something like that back in the 70s, and there was a lot of hoo-ha about it. But anyway, yeah, so I am sore and tired from pulling, because I had to go and help them price the books, but also pull the $50 books to go on a special bookshelf saying $50 a piece for these books, but also pull all of the $100 books off and take them back to the store and put them in auction.
It's super.
So, yeah, I've been very busy, but it's been fun. It's been fun. I found a book on slime molds that's like worth $194. So,
Excellent.
yeah. How was your week?
I was coding like a bastard for maybe 50 hours this week.
You were.
55 hours.
You absolutely were. I came in when I got home from work and thought I'd stepped into the Matrix.
Yep. I had my black screen with the green text.
Yes.
I had my hoodie on and all the lights out.
On like 3 different screens.
Yeah, I had 3 screens going.
And
Rocking
then-
the 3 screens today.
And then all of a sudden, for some reason, Hugo Weaving was here.
What I really want to do is turn one of my screens portrait, but that's not going to work.
No.
I'd like to be able to do that at work as well, but sadly they're fixed. And the last time we tried to move a monitor like that, it broke.
Yeah.
So, anyway, shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that. Also very busy. Busy Corrie news.
Former Coronation Street star and opinionated old cunt Charles Lawson suffered 2 falls this week and is awaiting a diagnosis. He says it doesn't look good. As far as this reporter is concerned, both fingers are crossed.
Well, Corrie news has started a little more controversially than I was expecting.
He is a dick, though.
See, I've had some reasonably pleasant interactions with him online, but I don't follow him, I
No.
don't think. Because any time that I see him online, he's walking his dog and shouting about something.
Right, and talking about how Coronation Street has gotten too woke.
Things like that, and immigrants, and
Right, and vaccinations.
and I'm just, I'm trying to avoid things like that
right, yes.
in my online.
Which makes being still on Twitter difficult.
It's very difficult. It's
Don't
been
know why you do it to yourself.
Because I've got like 4,100 followers, and it's taking a while to build that up, and it feels like it feels like I'm losing something and giving up by walking away from that. I'm very close to doing it though.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, get well soon,
Anyway.
Charlie.
You old cunt. And we say it affectionately. You have a hole in your shirt. Don't mess with it. You'll make it bigger.
That's what she said. Yeah, I got a hole in my.
Oh,
This is new.
I've got a hole in me pocket. Anyway, Coulson Smith has auditioned for a role in the BBC show Ludwig, but doesn't think he'll get it because it's another copper role. And he's been playing a cop for so long on
Has he though?
Coronation Street that he doesn't want to be typecast as a copper in every show that he's in.
Is he though?
That's what he says.
Do we think of Craig as? Well, we do think of Craig as being in the police.
A bent copper.
I don't know that I think of him as being a copper, but I do think of him as being working for the police.
Okay.
The police pay him.
He's a nice guy. He's
lovely
a nice
guy.
enough guy.
Lovely guy.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
Sensitive wee soul, which is nice.
Yeah, but as far as the show's concerned, they just ran out of ideas for him.
Yeah.
It's a shame because he's a lovely guy, as you say. And I just don't know that the copper persona fitted him all that well. It was never all that believable as a copper. Now, the person who keeps on insisting to me on Twitter that Craig should be making bread for people on the street, that I could get behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and get Kirk to help him. He can check for soggy bottoms. And finally, Eve Gordon returned to the show this week to
Yes, she
play
did.
an unnamed police officer. She first appeared on the show as Craig's girlfriend, Caitlin Ryan, back in 2015.
Yes, she
So,
did.
welcome back, Eve. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Now, the last time this made the Manchester Evening News was on the back of one of my tweets, noticing that she'd come back, because she was back
'Cause she-
when,
As an unnamed copper.
when,
It was a Tim thing.
yeah, it was Tim reflecting on his time in the back of the car or whatever it was. But she turned up and I was like, oh, I recognise her. And she was an old flame of Craig Tinker and smooched him under a tree.
Yes. While they were listening to music with earbuds, corded earbuds.
So now they're in the same nick as each other
Yeah.
and never interact.
Nope.
I really hope it's the same character. But yeah, she's
Yeah.
just named as police officer.
Right, yeah.
She's good though. She should
Yeah.
be getting more.
Yeah, she talked back to Kit.
Should be the new Swain.
Yeah, now that the old Swain is no longer the old Swain.
She redeemed herself a little bit this week, I felt.
Did she?
Yeah, a little bit.
Grilling poor Eileen.
Yeah.
Leave that woman alone. Her sister just died. And that's Corrie News.
Well, it finished cheerier than it started, that's for sure. But anyway.
I only called one person a cunt this
No,
week.
you've said that 3 times now. What's
That means he'll magically materialize in this room
shouting
about immigrants.
whilst waving his fist at the sky and he's letting his dog off the leash. Anyway,
Old man shouts at clouds.
news at 11. I'm determined to get to the feedback section, so I'm going to press this button now. Cheeky wrote in last week, too late to feature in last week's episode because we started recording a little early, but Cheeky said last week, both Daisy and her horrid mother can quietly or loudly suck a bag of dicks. And I say this with my whole chest because, well, Daisy may have been difficult as a child. She's a child, she's still learning. I can't say the same for a horrible mother. And also, I don't blame Gary for wanting to buy the builder's yard. His passion was always there. Apologies for the crude language. I don't think it's all that crude this week.
Seriously, dude.
But seriously, I'm really glad that Daisy is no longer in the show. Maybe that will make Daniel a normal person.
Never.
Well, thank
Danielle
you very much.
was not a normal person before Daisy.
And then this week, Cheeky writes in again.
All cheeky all the time.
It's Cheeky all the way down this week.
Yay.
What in the absolute fuck? Not only do the storyliners kill off Julie Carp, but they frame Eileen for her murder. What sense does that even make? Furthermore, to have not Kelly the Chin be tormented by a literal child is categorically ridiculous. It would have been easier to make Bobby the scapegoat. Bobby! Dee Dee throwing herself into work because of the loss of Laila seems like a natural progression, but it seems like they spend more time with that character, forcing her to hide away her emotions than actually confronting the struggle of being separated from their child. Also, I'm ready for Theo to leave because he adds nothing to the show now, especially with his kids getting in on the action, which includes vandalism. I deeply dislike how often Debbie is having to lie about how she truly feels. It's causing a lot of unnecessary pain that will definitely boil over once Ronnie finds the truth. Thank you so much to Cheeky and to Cheeky for our feedback this week.
And that's it. It's just cheeky all the way down.
All the way down.
Nobody else wants to write about this stupid show anymore.
Yeah, I'm taking that as a sign. Feedback's always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I'll probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast, or we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send us your proper mail to The Talk of the Street,
And chocolate.
P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interest of brevity. And now we'll podcast for coffee. So, judging by the lightness of our mailbag this week, it may come as no surprise to learn that we're drinking our own coffees this week.
Only we're not drinking
Absolutely
coffee.
fine. I am drinking a smaller than normal peace tea.
And also
Peachy goodness, and I'll have some ginger ale there.
made with your soda stream.
Yes.
The gift you said, why did you get this for me?
We're saying this, we're having a special section of the podcast where you cast up how I wasn't going to use a soda stream and now I am.
It's the gift.
You want a special podcast just for this?
It's the gift.
It's week 10, folks. Gavin's still using his soda stream that he said he was never going to use.
You've never used a gift from me more than you've used the soda stream, and I'm quite proud. And I am drinking ruby red grapefruit juice.
Which I bought.
It's good for your liver.
Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes, but if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And if Ko-Fi isn't your thing, we also have a Patreon site where you can show some love. Sign up as a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. It's nice outside and it's still early, so you might pick up some people mowing their lawn.
Yes.
This wee hole's bothering me.
Just take your shirt off. Go commando. Or that's not commando.
No. That's just taps off.
Yes.
I'm not going taps off inside. I'm not an animal. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Her first storyline is Sister, Can You Spare a Baby? On Monday, Dee Dee is walking about with her kid in the pram, and she seems to have completed her 180 to now absolutely deciding that she wants to keep the baby.
She's being nice to the baby. She's not being a dick to the baby, which one would expect from an aunt. I don't know what the show wants us to think.
Robbie's at... Robbie? Who the fuck's Robbie? Ronnie is at the rape hotel to pick up his jumper. A likely story.
Which he left in the office, apparently.
Yeah, sure, of course he did. Debbie tries some small talk, but Ronnie isn't keen. They talk about Laila, and he thinks that it's just going to confuse the baby that Dee Dee's getting involved. And sometimes people make choices that are hard to understand. But Dee Dee is singing You Are My Sunshine to Laila, telling her that she doesn't regret her, but she can't be who Laila needs her to be.
Correct.
Back home, Alia visits Dee Dee, and Dee Dee admits that she's enjoyed being Laila's mum, but that can't work long term. Alia thinks that James would forgive her in time if she doesn't go through with the adoption, and if she does go through with it, she may never forgive herself. Thanks, Alia. Later, Dee Dee's back on the street pushing that stroller about and chatting to Debbie about how much she's enjoying getting to know the kid. She feels that she's really turned a corner and all that, and then she looks up to see who's come back onto the street.
I'm not gay.
It's I'm Not Gay James arriving back with his dad. And Ed, James is already very hands-on with Laila, and he offers to stay for a couple of days, but Dee Dee tells him to go now. Go now!
Get the fuck out of here. Go back to America.
And so she rushes out. So James, reading the room, I guess,
Yeah. Fucks off.
leaves in a taxi with the baby while Dee Dee watches tearfully from around the corner. Ronnie thought that it would have been nice if Dee Dee had come to say cheerio.
Yeah.
The fuck's your problem here, Ronnie?
Yeah.
You were getting on her back for
Right.
showing
for,
an interest.
For showing any sort of affection to this baby. You were afraid she was going to confuse the baby, which isn't going to happen because she's a baby.
Babies are permanently confused, aren't they? Or bewildered.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just getting to know the world. They're fine. It doesn't really matter.
On Wednesday, Dee Dee comes into Nina's Rolls looking to get stuck into some work now. The perfect place, Nina's Rolls.
Yes.
Michael asks her how she's doing and hopes that she's taking it easy. What with the hysterectomy and all that she had about a month ago.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for reminding everybody that she shouldn't be moving because she had a hysterectomy.
So Dee Dee would rather she kept busy. Later, Dee Dee and Roy get talking about Haley, whose birthday it was today, and he tells her how much she cherishes every moment that he had with her, which obviously makes Dee Dee reflect on the time that she had with Laila. It's nice that Roy's always there to talk about Haley, and Haley can be used as a metaphor for anybody else's...
Pretty much everything.
For anybody else's
Because poor
predicament.
Haley is dragged up multiple times this week. Yeah. Maybe she should have just not died.
But then would she have been a metaphor?
No.
I think you need to die to be a metaphor.
Yeah.
Dee Dee's getting pushed in the bistro later when Sarah and her boobs come in, and then Michael comes along to keep her company. And it's to the point where Dee Dee reacts to them going, hoofed.
Is Michael keeping...
Check those bad boys out.
Is Michael keeping his sister company or Sarah's boobs?
A little from column A, a little from cup double D. Well, it's not cup double D, but you know what I mean.
What cup do you think they are? Remember, I'm a G.
Yeah, they're not your size.
Well, no. I think they could be a D.
You think so?
Yeah. C is like the average, but I think that's an average because most women don't really know their cup size because
What's
they don't
your-
get professionally measured.
What's your standard British handful? What size is that? Sarah's look like a standard British handful.
Well, for you, it's a G.
You know, bigger hands than...
You do.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Fair way. Oh yeah, Sarah's boobs. So, quickly, Michael comes in to change the subject and take Dee Dee home. She has a glass of water and sobers up immediately, and then eloquently talks with Michael about how her future has been wiped out now. Michael reminds her that she can still make a difference. Once Michael goes, Dee Dee's on the phone to Wes, looking to get together to talk again, and it took me a while to remember who Wes was.
The brother of the negligent racist
Zoe.
nurse. Mm-hmm. Yes, the negligent racist nurse.
Right.
That's her name now.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
She doesn't deserve to be a Zoe.
Well, I wonder where that's going to go, because
Right,
Michael was making overtures about getting back into the whole teaching the NHS a lesson sort of thing, but I thought Dee Dee had made her peace with that after talking with Wes and Zoe the last time. It seemed that they'd solved racism.
They hadn't solved racism.
Care.
They were going to team up to defeat racism.
Well, the mood's changed to something that was very much over, I felt.
No, she said that they were going to team up. They were going to be...
the Fantastic Four of anti-racism and maternity care.
I was going to say the new Avengers of maternity care, but yes, the Fantastic Four works too, although there's only 3 of them.
Well, Laila was involved briefly.
Maybe
now she's left.
Maybe Alia can be the thing.
I think Wes is the thing.
Okay, yes. So Alia could be the Human Torch. Because they blew her up in a truck and she lived.
Oh, yeah, that works. Flame on, says Alia.
Yes. Flame on indeed.
Doesn't feel like we're taking this seriously.
Well, it doesn't feel like the show is really taking it seriously either. I am glad she did not take that baby back.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that the show...
Me too.
...did not do that. I'm very happy about it.
I didn't like her all timid hiding around the corner, though, as Laila left and stuff.
Yeah. But, it gave her male relatives another opportunity to judge her. So... Gotta have that.
And judge her, they did.
Yes.
Yeah, Ronnie being pissed off that she didn't come to say cheerio was...
Ronnie was pissed off that she was getting to know her.
Exactly. Ronnie
seems to think that babies can get confused by... They can't even focus enough to see which face is which.
Ronnie doesn't care about Laila. Ronnie is in a bad mood because of Debbie.
That's true. That is true. He also knows nothing of babies.
I get how they can't really portray the aftermath of a hysterectomy accurately, because Dee Dee not being able to pick anything up that's over £5 for 3 months would have been kind of dull to watch, but I definitely think they should have
pick anything up
I
to be on the
definitely think
show.
they should have extended our recovery period a little bit, because this is so unbelievable.
They have taken a whole organ out of her body.
Mm-hmm. And her remaining organs are still kind of trying to find their new place to hang out.
Because nature abhors a vacuum. She should have one of those.
A vacuum.
There should be one of the. She should have one of those squeegee things that I had.
Yes.
Because nature abhors a vacuum.
Yep. Does it feel like we've had this conversation before?
A few times.
Right. Let's move on then to our next storyline, which is Theo No Sleeves. On Monday.
He's got sleeves now. He's wearing a jacket. He's wearing a jacket.
Todd, but underneath that, no sleeves. Todd takes a call from Danielle about Theo. It seems that the big gay scaffolder has gone missing for the last couple of days, and she thinks that he's with Todd, but Todd doesn't know and doesn't care, more to the point. Outside, though, Mick runs into a drunken Theo who gives him a mouthful of abuse, and they're about to go at it, but not like that, until Ronnie and Billy, of all people, and Ed split it up.
Yep.
Ronnie offers Mick a square go, but Mouthy Mick wanders off. Billy takes Theo to Nina's Rolls, because that's the very best place to sober up, especially if you're not having to work on any legal documents.
Right, yes. You get lots of coffee and Eccles cakes, which just soak up all the booze.
Theo's drunk acting is maybe 1.5 out of 10.
It's
poor.
It's better than Ryan's.
1.5 out of 10.
It's better than Ryan's when we first met Ryan, and he was hilariously pretend drunk.
He fell into a table.
Whatever happened to what's his name? His pretend brother that he was switched at birth from He was in that one Florence Pugh movie, and he was in a show. What was that show he was in? Oh, he was in that thing with Idris Elba in the sky. Was it Idris Elba in the sky? Do you remember that thing that you watched with Idris Elba in the sky? You talked about it on the List of Lists podcast.
Ali.
Yes.
Good old Ali Neeson.
Yeah, he was good. Bring him back. He's gone on Hollywood, though, with Idris Elba.
Yeah, apparently. With the never-ending queue of parts for him featuring Idris Elba in the sky, apparently.
What was the name of... Was it a limited series or something?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's like a plane cop. What is that called?
A plane cop.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about hostage? No, hijack.
Hijack.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, he was in that.
And it was Idris Elba, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Idris Elba in the sky, which is a better title than
Idris Elba on a plane would have maybe got me to the answer quicker.
Well, you didn't think he was just floating in the sky, did you?
Yes.
Like he did in that one movie, where he was a genie. Remember that?
Good God.
That was a good movie. Where he was a genie and in love with, what's her name?
Todd meets him there and tells him about Danielle getting in touch. Theo has tried not to be gay, but he can't do it. And Billy and Todd give him a lecture about being true to himself. But Theo has a story about growing up in a religious family, and they tried to de-gay him as a kid with horrible conversion therapy.
Ugh.
And it made him repress himself to the point that he eventually had a family and convinced himself he was happy.
Yeah, they forced him to get married.
Until he met Todd, and that changed everything. Billy has surprisingly little to say about all this, but Theo has been living in his van for the last couple of days, so Todd offers up Eileen's sofa. His timing could have been better.
Yeah, his timing could be better.
So, the conversion therapy stuff kind of came as a little bit of a surprise.
Really?
Because you don't really hear this being mentioned very much in drama, I don't think. And it felt like a new direction to go with a character like this, where his background and his association with his sexuality was so warped from an early age.
Yeah.
But I don't know if
sense.
it's coming up again. It was almost... It's been mentioned in that scene, and then we're not talking about it anymore.
It makes sense, though, especially the way that his family seems to be reacting to the fact that he's gay now. Like, not understanding that he was always gay. So this does not ruin any of their memories of growing up with a gay dad. He was gay all the time. His daughter this week, it's
We'll get to that.
What planet are you on?
Well,
Do you not have gay friends? Is it possible to live in this world without gay friends at this point? I don't think it is.
On Wednesday, Theo and Todd are talking about Julie while they're at the Undertaker's, when Millie, his daughter, bursts in, demanding to know what's been going on. She thinks Theo is looking stupid with this guy and has ruined the family. She seems very upset. It's not easy to tell. So Theo leads her away to have this conversation in private. And maybe that conversation shouldn't have been in private. Anyway, post-conversation, Theo thinks that he won't be getting a Father's Day card from Millie or the other one, and he doesn't see a way back into their lives now that he's a raging homosexual. On Friday, it seems that Theo is now staying longer term at Eileen's, despite the fact that Julie's just died and Eileen's in the frame for a murder. More on that soon.
Yes.
He's back with stuff for a fry-up that he's prepared to make in somebody else's kitchen. And later, the car alarm goes off at the Undertaker's on the hearse because someone has thrown paint over it, which usually makes car alarms go off.
Pink paint.
Yeah. Whoever did it does a runner. Todd spends what appears to be half an hour in the show chasing after them and discovers it's Millie. Well, surprise, surprise.
Bobby Brown.
He reads her the riot act and tells her to accept that her dad is gay, and at this, Theo comes along, chastises Rod for speaking to his daughter like that, hushes Millie, and takes responsibility for everything and takes her away for a milkshake at Roy's or something.
She does say she's sorry.
Leaving Todd bemused.
She does say she's sorry.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. So it kind of feels like maybe something that Todd said finally got through to her a little bit.
Well, he said basically what you have been saying, but maybe more directly.
Right,
that
yes.
You're nearly 15 years old. You need to accept this.
Right, yeah. Your dad being gay does not change anything in your childhood, really, because he was gay the whole time.
No, if your dad loved you a month ago,
Right, he
he
still,
still
loves
loves
you.
you.
Yeah.
So,
Only now he listens to more Lady Gaga. There you go.
and come on, Millie, you surely had some ideas when you see them wearing all those wife beaters, singing Village People songs as he's climbing the scaffolding.
He's,
know.
He's singing Bad Romance, not YMCA. He's an evolved gay.
Theo, Tinker. Thank goodness there isn't a Native American. What was the other one? Oh, the
Cop.
sailor.
Oh, no, yeah.
Peter. And contrary to our correspondent earlier, I'm actually liking Theo.
He's grown on me. You know, at first it was like, oh, come on. Seriously? It's 2025. Get over yourself. But the whole conversion therapy thing, which is a real thing and is really horrible and is illegal now for the time being. Knocking on wood.
Yep.
So it adds another layer to all this, and it makes some of his actions and the actions of his family make sense. So
I just like him as a character. I like his deadpan delivery.
I like that he occasionally sticks up for other people.
I very much like the
Randomly
fact
on the street.
that he was sticking up for Sean.
Yes, that was great.
He's a good guy, and he's not scared to get himself involved in a situation
Right,
where there's bullies involved.
right, yeah. Anybody who's anti-Mick is all right with me.
Yeah, talking about that, Mick was wasting no time whatsoever taking advantage of the fact that the guy that he wants to beat up's drunk.
Right, and
What
is
a
willing to be
slime
beat
ball.
up.
What an absolute slime ball.
Yeah.
And when Ronnie squares up to him and
Right,
says, well,
he's
come
like,
on
well,
then.
come on, then you can
let's
fight
go.
me. Like,
And he just wanders off.
he just looks at those arms and says, no, thank you.
Right. He looks at those arms and he compares them with that horrible body warmer he insists on wearing all the time.
Right, it's like he's a member of the Coast Guard in Back to the Future. Remember, because
No, I don't want to talk about Back to the Future.
Marty
I've talked about Back to the Future enough this week.
Marty McFly is wearing that vest, and everybody assumes it means he's in the Navy for some reason because they think it's a life preserver. Which, yes, of course, people in the Navy wear life preservers around on dry land all the time.
I think that the timing for Theo to suddenly land himself at Eileen's while this is all going on, and then he doesn't have the read on the situation enough to think that, okay, nobody's really asking me to leave here,
No.
but maybe I should.
Yeah.
Maybe given that there's a bereavement in this house
Yeah.
and everyone's super upset about it,
Yeah.
maybe it would be better for everyone involved if I wasn't here.
Yeah.
But no, he goes to the corner shop, gets some stuff for a fry-up.
Yep. Well, and I mean, that's nice, because nobody in that house wants to cook at the moment. And they need to eat. So it's kind of nice of him. It's like Mary making everyone tea.
Not everyone, though.
No, not everyone.
Mary was a delight this week.
She was. She was. Brian doesn't deserve her.
Oof, we'll get to that.
Yeah, Brian's not my favorite person this week. Brian is going to get boring moment of the week.
You're calling it now? Even
calling
before
it
I've
now.
asked?
Yeah. I'm not going to say how.
Okay.
You probably know, though.
Yeah. And maybe I'm quoting it later on.
Ha!
We'll move on then to our next storyline, Life After Daisy. On Monday, poor maudlin Jenny is looking around the Rovers. She's a kind of Miss Haversham now that Daisy's left.
Yep.
Worried about the future and cursing the name Daisy Midgley. Rita tells her to give herself a fucking shake, crack open the vino, and get her thinking cap on, girl, because you've still got a lot of living to do.
That's right.
Jenny, that is.
Yes.
But Jenny has been broken by the catfishing.
What are you saying about Rita?
Jenny has been broken by the catfishing, and she has no cash anyway. Rita thinks it's time to put the stupid fucking pub behind her. It was cursed anyway.
Yeah, no kidding.
Then on Friday, the Rovers' deeds have now been signed over to Carla. That happened pretty quick. And she has new prospective buyers that are coming around for a look-see. The prospective buyers, though, are unimpressed with the place. Glenda apparently has been doing her best to put them off in order to keep her job, you know, the one that she's got, other than the Little Big Shots franchise. It's not even the franchise that she's running, is it? She runs a whole shebang.
Yeah, and when was the last time that was mentioned?
I'm going to say more than a year ago.
Seriously. Why are we not seeing these children sing on a daily basis?
Oh, no. No, no, no. I don't want to see that, but I want to see Glenda teaching them maybe how to sing better.
I need more children singing poorly.
Jenny has had enough, though, and she tells Glenda to call canny with all that. She just wants this business settled. She talks with Rita about how sad this is making her, which somehow sets Rita talking about singing in the clubs and being the Nightingale of Weatherfield for 5 or 10 minutes. It goes on far longer than you'd expect in a scene that's really about Jenny selling the Rovers. But she eventually tells Jenny that she'll find something else to do. And something else to do comes up when Brian comes in. And he eventually, after Rita's insistence and, I guess, winking, offers her a job at the cabin that we never ever see.
Yes. Rita insinuates that she's going to die soon, so he'd better get somebody to replace her.
Wank.
Rita, you, Audrey, and Ken will still be on the street after everyone else is dead.
Long after we've stopped doing this podcast.
Correct. Long after we're both dead. Yes. It will go on forever.
Are we really saying, though, that Jenny's going from being in the role of matriarch for the show as landlady of the Rovers,
right,
to handing out quarters of midget gems to people that we'd never see on camera?
Right, yes, and working for Brian. Working under Brian.
Yeesh.
No.
But she seemed rather chuffed with the offer and the opportunity.
Yeah, which is weird. Maybe she's just grateful for anything. Although she said, I've been my own boss for so long, I don't think I could work for somebody else. And especially not for somebody as insufferable as Brian.
Yeah, that's a tough ask. If Jenny is going to the cabin, I would hope that means that we get the occasional scene in the cabin.
Yeah, we haven't seen the inside of the cabin in ages.
Years. It's been so long. It used to be a little hub, you know, the scenes that are in devs, you know, some of them might happen in the cabin, or scenes that were in the community garden, some of them might be in the cabin because people love to buy newspapers from Rita.
And candy.
And quarters of midget gems.
Yes.
Exactly. So I think it can still be that hub.
Yeah.
But
they
need to start writing
it
into some scenes.
Right, yes. And also bring back Little Big Shots.
So I'm curious about the transfer of business here. The deeds have been signed over to Carla. So Carla basically said, give me the money for the pub or I'm taking the pub.
Right.
So Carla hasn't bought this from anybody. She's just got Jenny to sign over the deeds.
Right.
Or I'm going to the police.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
So that's how she's got the pub back in her name now.
Right.
Ryan has already switched allegiances.
To Carla.
Yes. Which is fine because
it's fine.
She's
Carla's,
family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was always, he was always more allegiant to Carla than Jenny. Anyway, he just works for Jenny.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't work for Jenny anymore.
No.
And he's taking his orders from Carla.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's going to cause any friction. One would hope.
Probably not now that he's got a new job, which we'll talk about later.
Oh, true. Or is that a full-time thing?
I would imagine it will be full-time. Because, I mean, Debbie is a full-time operator.
Let's move on. Our next storyline is Mick the Prick. Because that rhymes. On Wednesday, Sarah is wandering around her flat with her wallopers out, more or less out. She learns of Julie's death, so she and Kit agree to raise a glass for her at the bistro later.
Right, yes. Meanwhile, Kit's chest hair is just gleaming
He's just out the
inside
shower.
that blue bathrobe, which I guess is, something that Adam forgot to take back with him, because there aren't any other adult males in that house. Or is it David's? No, it's not David's, because David's bathrobe is not fitting Kit.
I think David's house coat for Kit would be like a face cloth or something.
It's funny because it's kind of like Disney, where you can see some of a man's chest, but you can't see the nipples.
You can show side boob.
Right.
You can't show the nippular area.
Right, yes. So you can't show man nipples either, even though they're just ornamental.
It's a nipple-free zone. I wonder if somebody had said to Sarah or Tina O'Brien this week, it's been a while since Sarah's got her boobs out, and she might as well do it this week.
Right.
Because that was 2 scenes that she was in where she was exposing quite a bit.
You seem to have noticed this more than I have.
You didn't notice?
Not really. I mean, I noticed in the bar. I was like, wow, that is a very low-cut top she's wearing for the bistro.
Right.
But then, in her house, after she's just had sexual intercourse with Kit.
I don't know if she's had sexual intercourse with Kit, because Kit's just come out the shower. I think they're just up. I think they just got up in the morning.
Well, they got up, they had sex, and then Kit had a shower.
Maybe.
That's how it goes, right?
Once upon a time. My 50s now. Getting up in the morning is a celebration in itself.
Yes, there's getting up in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And then there's getting up in the
See, I
morning.
just set them up for you. Anyway. So, at the station later, Kit and...
Swain.
I feel better about that tune this week. They're chatting about a suspected assault in a pub car park. The suspect says Swain is one Mick the Prick.
He's a wrong un.
And Swain asks Kit to put some pressure on him.
But not like that.
No, absolutely like that.
Not like that.
Kit doesn't look happy about this at all. So when he interviews Mick with an underling, played by Eve Gordon,
Yes.
it already looks like the power dynamic is totally favouring Mick the Prick in this situation. Mick denies all knowledge about any assault and says that he's a changed man. Kit decides that he's heard enough and lets Mick go at that, and the underling is shocked that Kit went so easy on him, because they talked about what happened in the parking lot, but they never talked about what happened in the pub itself.
Right, yes.
Kit tells her to mind her own fucking business. Outside, Mick has been waiting on Kit. He wants to have a wee chat. The two of them know each other from a previous life when they were both much younger. Mick thinks Kit has changed. Kit doesn't think the same can be said about Mick. And when Mick reminds him about Lou, Kit tells him to fuck off back to the past. Mick says, yeah, the past always comes back to haunt you in soap operas.
That's true.
And
Especially if we've got a flashback episode coming.
In the bistro, Swain wonders why Kit let Mick go so easily, and Kit has a fairly reasonable excuse. There was no witnesses, no CCTV. Sarah is dead keen, some would say maybe overly keen, to know what that exchange was all about. Kit's evasive until Sarah points out how evasive he's being, so he reveals that he was reminded of someone that he knew from a long time ago and has lost touch with, and how there was a time when his morals were more questionable. Sarah keeps on pushing, but gets no more out of Kit. Well, not like that anyway.
Not like that anyway.
On Friday, Liam's starting work at the builder's yard that is now Gary's. Mick's already there and seems keen to teach Liam the trade. Gary's other kid, and it took me so long to remember what that wee voice name was,
Hilarious.
Jake.
Yes, Jake.
He's jealous that Liam will be making money because he wants to make money to get a Xbox. More on that later. Soon turns out, though, that Mick is hazing Liam. He seems to think the whole thing is funny, and he's one of the lads because Mick cleverly slices open a bag of plaster, so
Right.
when Liam picks it up, it goes everywhere.
all over the place. Ha, 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 ha. Do you know how much that shit costs, Mick?
£15.
No, it weighs 15 pounds.
That weighs £50. Costs £15. I looked it up because I thought that's a complete waste of waste of materials considering you've just opened. And
Right.
who are these other 3 jokers that you've hired, Gary?
Right, yeah.
What are their names?
Gary, you're terrible at hiring people.
Oh my God. But yeah, it's still a waste of plaster. But Liam does laugh along. But is he laughing along because he wants to be
Because-
one of the lads, or is he laughing along because he genuinely thinks it's funny? I think he's
covering.
yeah, I think so too.
This is a kid who was bullied to the point of suicidal ideation. Maybe don't bully him, Mick.
Right.
You
When Gary
asshole.
mentions this to Maria later, she's not quite counsellor fucking woke about this, but you can see that it's in the post. She approaches Mick with this accusation in the pub later, tells him that Liam looks up to him, so maybe go easy on the kid. When
Right.
it comes out that Mick lets Lou do all the child raising stuff and cooking and all that sort of nonsense, she tells him that he sounds like a 1950s throwback, and he does not like that one little bit.
He doesn't. It actually kind of gives him pause, which is weird. That would be the thing that would give him pause, that he's a jackass who needs to change his ways.
Oh, that's not what it made me think that he was thinking. It made me think what he was thinking was, if we went in this pub, Maria, I would punch you in the throat.
Well, maybe a little bit of that too. But he does seem to be taken aback that a woman is talking back to him and is not intimidated by his assholeness.
Oh, hugely. And Maria was fucking brilliant in this
She
scene.
was great. More of that, please.
Yeah. Because she just mocks him
Right.
and says, oh, wait a minute, it sounds like you just let Lou do all the work
Right.
in the house then. He says, well, I've been out working, I need a break.
It's like,
Well,
she fucking needs a break too,
What
you
break
dick.
is she getting, you
Right.
asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're beginning to sound like a 1950s throwback. 1950s throwback is pejorative,
Yes.
particular to the UK, I think, thanks to the Reeves and Mortimer vehicle Shooting Stars, which had a team captain called Mark Lamar, who Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer accused of being a 1950s throwback pretty much on a weekly basis.
I think everybody, no matter where they are, gets the gist, unless you're a white dude. And then you're like, what was wrong with the 50s?
Yeah. You know, the greased back hair and
Right, yeah. And all
the
the
donkey jacket or something.
and all the women and people of color and gay people look at them and say, if only I had a crowbar at this moment.
Right.
Ah,
So yeah, you touched on it, so we might as well talk about it a little bit. The flashback episode that is coming up next week, I believe.
yeah.
It doesn't sound like the whole episode is dedicated to it, which I think is just going to make it even weirder.
And worse.
Well, let's not prejudge it, but absolutely
It's
worse.
a throwback
A
episode.
throwback?
It's a flashback episode.
It's a flashback.
It might as well be a throwback. Throwing the fish back in the water
Right.
because it sucks. And it's too small.
If you're going to do a flashback episode, and a flashback episode doesn't feel Coronation Street.
No.
It feels very Hollyoaks, EastEnders,
Right.
Emmerdale.
Yeah.
And I know that we've touched on fucking about with linear storytelling, where
Right.
we've had, remember there was a week where we got the same story from 3 different points of view.
Yeah.
And I actually quite enjoyed how they did that. But it was flashing back to earlier on that day,
Right.
not flashing back to, I think they're going back to the early 2000s.
2007, I believe.
So going back what, 15, 17 years or whatever.
The year before You Don't Mess with the Zohan was released.
It'd be nice just to get through one of these storylines without you randomly mention a movie.
Starring Adam Sandler. As an Israeli
It's like I'm
counter-terrorist.
speaking a fucking foreign language. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to do the flashback episode, why are you doing it with this bunch of characters
Right.
where I actively hate 2/3 of them,
Right.
and the jury's out on the other one?
Right. Yeah. Like, we have been kind of curious about Kit's life before the street, and how he grew up differently than he would have if he had stayed with the Winter Browns, which would have been just the Winters at that point. But nobody gives a fuck about Lou or Mick except to say, please get rid of these characters because they're terrible.
The only thing people want to see is the back of them.
Right. Seriously.
No, oh, how did they become the contemptible assholes that they became? I really don't care. If it's nature or nurture, I don't care. I want them both gone. I think the actions of Mick this week do nothing but vindicate my expectation that he's going to get murdered and there's going to be a whodunit. The flashbacks are going to be... You just set yourself up for too much deep analysis of it, because
Right.
unless the guy that's playing Kit
Yeah.
is 3 feet taller than the other two,
Right.
then I'm not believing it.
Are we
And
going to find out that Kit is actually Brody's dad?
Probably. But because there was the mention of Lou,
Right.
there's something loaded in
Yes,
and
the
how Mick
mention of
mentioned Lou.
Yeah,
And we all know that Kit will fuck anything that moves.
it's true.
Maybe a couple of things that don't. But and if they don't look, and I haven't seen any stills or footage from it to be able to say one way or the other, but the people that are coming into play, the younger versions of these characters, because we're only talking about 15, 17 years ago, these people should pretty much look like how they are now.
Well,
And if they don't, again, I'm not really believing it. It's just, it feels that they're unnecessarily setting themselves up for unnecessarily complaining
yeah.
about this.
It's ridiculous.
And again, it just, of all the characters to focus on characters that we kind of care about. Why don't you? Even though the ones that we really love, we've already seen their flashback episode. It's called Classic Coronation Street.
Correct.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing Maria continue to be the sand under Mick's foreskin here. She was great, and she definitely knows how to stand up to these bullies when Gary seems more relaxed about the whole thing. And considering Liam's recent history, like you mentioned, it's all the more unforgivable. But do we need to have another bully storyline?
No. With the same kid? No.
Right.
Can we have a storyline with Liam where he's happy? Is it possible? Can we please have a happy kid on the street? With the exception of the wee boy who shouts words?
The wee boy who shouts words.
Yes.
That
With the
seems like
bowl
a
haircut.
Dr. Zeus story.
With the bowl haircut, who is Tyrone's child.
He's still got a bowl cut. His name's Doran.
That's right, Doran. Doran is the only happy child on the street.
Is the only happy person, full stop, on the street. We've said this. All right, we'll move on then to our next storyline. I know that you stole Tracy's van last summer. On Wednesday, racist Kelly is house hunting with Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby!
Fun for a house.
What money are you using to get this house, racist Kelly?
Well, she doesn't have any. She mentions that she's looking, but she can't find anything because she has no money.
He asks her about her blackmailer, but it seems that everything's gone quiet on that front. Bobby advises just keeping stum about it all then. But she's still worried about losing Frankie if she gets nicked by the fuzz.
Yes. But not like that.
There we go. Bobby thinks that she should take her mind off it and is about to suggest that they go out together when she decides to text Sabrina. And I thought, oh, excellent, we're going to see Sabrina.
No.
No. Thanks, Bobby.
That was kind of funny, though, because he's like, you need to get out more and, and relax and have some fun. And she's like, you're absolutely right. And he's like, perfect. Do you want to? And she's already texting Sabrina.
Yep.
Poor Bobby.
Later, though, racist Kelly finds Bobby in the Rovers. She's had another text from the blackmailer. Bobby thinks that this is creepy, and it's got racist Kelly spooked. No one fucking cares about this. But Bobby's glad that she came to him to tell him her woes.
Yes, because let's be honest, she has no one else.
Right, it's almost like she shouldn't be a character anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of need her.
Do we?
Yeah,
Because
she's a young woman on the street. Actually, we need more young men is the problem. Yes. Because there has to be somebody that Aadi hasn't dated yet.
all the young men in the show are in the Stabby Teenage Centre.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, except for Aadi. And there's only so much of Aadi that can be spread around.
Hey, and enjoy that while it lasts.
Seriously.
On Friday at Nina's Rolls, Bobby is keen again to know about the latest from Racist Kelly's blackmailer. He offers to keep her company today, but she's a hard no on that.
Yeah.
She wants to go to the cops to report the blackmailer, but Bobby doesn't think that's such a great idea. He refers to the blackmailer as he,
Right.
which makes Racist Kelly suspicious, but Bobby's just like, well, chances are it's going to be a he, isn't it?
Right, yeah. Women aren't going to do this to you.
Later, she's still in Nina's Rolls looking for that place to rent when Aadi offers to keep an eye open on the jobs board in the shop for her. That's nice of you, Aadi.
It is nice of you,
Surely
Aadi.
Racist Kelly is capable of doing that. Then she gets another blackmailer message demanding 500 quid. So she goes to speak to Betsy about this and tells her that she thinks that her blackmailer is Bobby. And Betsy cannot for 1 second believe this and calls her an idiot. Bobby's one of the good guys, says
Right.
Betsy. And Racist Kelly wants to be wrong, but she's got a feeling in her urine about it.
Yeah.
She has a plan. She's going to set a trap, and she's going to need Betsy's help. It's a
Yes.
trap.
It's a trap.
She goes to Dev's for an envelope
And some old
an
newspaper.
old newspaper, and Aadi is dead kind to her and tells her about a job that's come up in Freshco's and offers to put in a good word with the manager for her. And Racist Kelly looks like she might be liking a little bit of that action.
Who wouldn't?
So she and Betsy
Of an age-appropriate age.
go to the precinct and drop an envelope in a bin and send a text to the blackmailer that the cash has been dropped off, and then they hide round a corner.
They do.
It's a little Scooby-Doo.
I was going to say, it's very Scooby-Doo, isn't it?
Like, the blackmailer's not going to think that...
Actually, Scooby-Doo would be a far more convoluted plan and trap because Freddy,
They'd be dressed up as chefs.
for no reason at all.
They'd be dressed up as French chefs, and they'd be making enormous sandwiches, and then they wouldn't notice that the bad guys already been and lifted the envelope.
And one of them would be riding a unicycle for some reason.
Yep.
And Velma would lose her glasses.
Oh, my glasses! So, Racist Kelly is complaining about how long this is taking. It's been 30 seconds.
Yeah, seriously.
When, thicker than shite in the neck of a bottle, it's Jake Windass who shows up and retrieves the envelope. So Betsy and Racist Kelly spring their trap
Womp womp.
and approach him. And he says he was just doing it for shits and giggles.
And also he needs a PlayStation.
And he wanted that Xbox.
Womp womp.
Racist Kelly wonders how that he got her number. And he says that he got it off Maria's phone.
How
and
does Maria have her
Racist
number?
Kelly stops asking questions at that.
Well, she says you're a creep for creeping on your mum's phone.
But seriously, how do you have my number? It's on my mum's phone. How did your fucking mum have my number? More to the point.
I'm trying to think why Maria would have Racist Kelly's number. Maybe to text an order in for Nina's Rolls.
Maybe if there's been any racisms happening
Right.
in Weatherfield that she can
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
ask Racist Kelly if she did it.
Right, yeah. Because let's not forget, Maria was on the side of the racism is bad, actually, back in that storyline.
Racism is bad, actually. Okay, it's my turn to mention movies now.
Right, yeah. Maria is on
Which
the...
movies am I mentioning? I am mentioning the Derek Zoolander Centre for Kids Who Can't Read Good. And I'm also going to talk about the Mel Brooks movie, High Anxiety, which features a mental hospital called the Psychoneurotic Institute for the Very, Very Nervous.
Oh, dear. Mel Brooks is still alive, isn't he? He's like one of the only ones who's still alive.
Very, very nervous.
He would be at that age.
High anxiety whenever you're near. So, Racist Kelly deletes the photos from Jake's phone and tells him to do one. Do one!
Do one!
Now Racist Kelly feels like a total cow for suspecting Bobby.
Well,
and
you
Betsy
should.
doesn't let her forget it.
No. Good job, Betsy. I'm glad that they're friends now.
Yes, these two appalling young women should be friends.
They should.
And it's worse because when Racist Kelly gets home, she finds that Bobby has given her the money that she needs to pay off the blackmailer.
Right.
Nice one, Bobby. But instead, she looks like she's going to pocket it and use it for a deposit on her flat.
Yes. Of
She
course
goes-
she is.
She goes back to Dev's and snaps at Aadi when he tells her that the Freshco's job's already gone to someone else. This is why no one likes you, Racist Kelly. Is because the people that are trying to do you favours, you shout at.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, I'm the one that's doing you the favour here. It's not
Weird.
my fault. Go speak to the
Weird.
manager, stupid cow. Aadi's had enough of this, and he and Roy start talking about the firmness and sweetness of Aadi's plums. And that's as far as
But
we get
not like that.
with that this week.
Which are completely different from Dev's kiwis.
Less hairy.
One would hope.
Indeed.
If there's a hair on your plum, something's wrong.
Can't think of anything that rhymes, no? If there's a hair on your plum,
Stick it in your bum.
go tell your mum.
Just stick it in your bum.
Yep. Well, so long as we're having fun, right?
Right. That's you gotta laugh, or else you'll cry.
Now, I actually really enjoyed this storyline this week.
I,
Despite the fact that I really don't care about it, I thought Fridays was
Okay.
pretty decent.
I enjoyed aspects of it. I enjoy the idea that Aadi and Racist Kelly are going to be an item at some point.
It might make Racist Kelly likeable,
It might.
or more likeable,
It might.
or a little less unlikable.
We'll see. I like the team up of Betsy and Racist Kelly. I don't like the fact that it was Gary's kid that nobody talks about. That's the one blackmailing her for some random reason. Where was he on the street during that whole thing?
Who knows?
Where was he? Was he taking pictures from his bedroom window? Because that's a little creepy. But it felt really anticlimactic, and like this storyline could have been an email. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as far as...
It would have been far more interesting if it had been Bobby.
Now, I had called it as being Bobby right from the start, because Bobby was involved in it. It seemed obvious that either Bobby's going to get the blame for this, or it really is going to be Bobby.
Right.
But, yeah, the fact that it was Jake was... I think it was Jake because Jake was already in that day to talk about the Xbox earlier on.
I guess.
So maybe that's why it was Jake, but it really could have been anybody. You're right. Anybody who wanted some money for something. For fuck's sake, it could have been Jenny.
Yeah, it's this whole dramatic thing of, I'm going to blackmail you. I know who you are and everything. It does make sense that it would be Jake, who doesn't really understand what money is and thinks that Racist Kelly would have 500 quid.
Or that when you receive a text from the person that you're blackmailing to say, right, I've put the cash where you want it, it's there now, that you just go along and take it.
Right, yes, in broad daylight,
Yep.
if
Or
anybody's around.
You check to make sure that the people that you're blackmailing have dressed up as French chefs before you go and retrieve that shit.
It is nice that Racist Kelly didn't, turn him into his mother. When she comes around, hello, what's all this, says Maria. And they're like, we're just hanging out. We're just having fun.
I'm just this young 12, 13-year-old boy hanging out with these grown-ass women.
Betsy's not grown ass, but she's 16.
I think she's older than 16, isn't she? She's at college.
I forget how
And
college
Mrs. Kelly's
works.
19. She said so a couple of weeks ago.
Well, Betsy acts like she's 5, so.
Oh, sure. No, as far as inconsequential storylines are concerned, there was one in Neighbours this week where two characters who have left months ago and left their dog sent a message to the people looking after the dog saying,
We're never coming.
We want the dog back. And then for one episode, those people are worried about the dog. And then the people text back again and say, nah, we don't want the dog back after all.
Was it Guy Pearce and Margot Robbie who wanted the dog?
That's the end of the story. No.
Oh.
I'd have been slightly more interested if it had been. But yeah, that was a 2-day storyline in Neighbours. The dog's leaving. No, he's not. That was it.
Whereas in Coronation Street, we never even get to see the dogs anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of fine with that.
No, I want to see Peanut and David. I want to see David peeing in the street again. Because all the other dogs are dead. It's just... Oh, no. What's Roy's dog's name?
Freddie,
the mop. So, Freddie, David, and Peanut. That's it. All the other dogs are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Eccles.
Dogs die.
Poor Eccles. Poor Cerberus.
Cerberus was a very good boy.
He was.
Our penultimate storyline tonight is Sucks to be a Webster.
The less said about Eccles, the better.
On Friday, Debbie has thrown herself into her work. Carl thinks that she should take it easy given the situation, and Kev wonders why Carl is so keen on Debbie cutting back on her work. What's this all about? Because why should anybody be concerned about your sister, Kev? So Carl covers up and says...
because Kev's like, wait a second. Everybody's supposed to be concerned about me.
I forgot that he had cancer this week.
I'm the guy with cancer.
I totally forgot.
How could you forget?
Because I don't care.
It's in his balls. Well, it's not in his balls anymore. Where is it now?
No, but cut out.
Yeah.
This is
the
preventative chemotherapy.
No, I thought the cancer had traveled into his... No, it was his lymph nodes.
In his lymph nodes,
The
that's
lymph
right.
nodes, that's right.
Which are somewhere.
They're everywhere. That's the problem.
Carl covers on the spot, saying that it's, what with everything going on, Debbie's probably an emotional wreck. At the Rape Hotel later, Carl is able to properly air his concerns about Debbie's workload, and he offers to help. Debbie tells him to drop it. Everything that she does is super important, and the only person that she would call upon to help her would be family. She goes to the Rovers later and hears Ryan's woes from another storyline that he's concerned that he might not have a job there for very much longer. In that case, Debbie has a proposition for him.
But not like that.
And she asks him to rob the bistro safe again.
Although, if he's going to sleep with Leanne, he might as well sleep with Debbie.
We keep on forgetting that Ryan slept with Leanne.
I will never forget that Ryan slept with Leanne. Are you kidding me?
I mean, talk about a storyline that came and went.
Seriously.
But... wiped on the curtain, left.
Yeesh.
It was just for that comedy of Ryan being a bit of a chatty Cathy in the morning.
Right, and wanting to make her breakfast.
Well, she dies from being mortified at what she's just done.
Right.
More than once, probably.
Yes.
But the show's just forgotten about it.
Right. I mean, we haven't seen Leanne in ages, let's be fair.
Yeah, she's getting that break that...
They finally gave Jane a break. It was about fucking time.
Seriously.
I was just thinking about that because, one of the things that could have come up in Corrie News is the fact that Ben Price put his foot through to the ceiling of his bathroom, and they showed a
what?
He was in the attic space above his.
Oh, he was above it. Okay.
And he misstepped and put his foot and his very long leg through the roof, through the ceiling of his bathroom.
Yeah, that would do it.
And apparently his leg was already kind of dead because of some injury. It's like, how are you climbing into the attic then? Maybe you shouldn't be climbing into the attic if you've already got an injury in your leg, sir. But anyway, the picture that they showed was of him and Georgia. And I was like, yeah, we haven't seen Georgia in ages either. She's getting a break too. That's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Give those women a break. They've been carrying the show on their backs long enough.
Seriously. So Debbie asks him to rob the bistro safe again. No, still not getting a reaction out of that. Back home, Kev is exhausted, and again, it took me a while to remember why.
Because he's got cancer. It's not a tumor. Only it is.
Debbie tells Carl about her bright new idea, divorce parties. Which actually sounds like it maybe wouldn't be too bad.
I got a cake.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well done. Furthermore, she tells them that she's hired Ryan to help pick up the slack in her work, and Carl is obviously very put out by this.
Right, because he was suggesting himself.
Yeah, right at the start of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And Debbie didn't pick up what he was putting down.
Well, she said that she only trusts family.
Uh-huh.
And here she is, she's given work to Ryan, who isn't family.
Right, and who was her accomplice in attempting to rob the bistro.
Which I've said twice.
Yeah, I know.
But Carl offering, while he is family, she doesn't know him.
Yeah, and she probably didn't take it seriously because supposedly he has all this business in Germany. So,
Well, he was going to put all that in the back burner and focus on Weatherfield. On the one hand, I'm liking Carl and his brotherly way of treating Debbie, which seems to have developed very quickly. But on the other hand, I'm very concerned that he's doing his best to steal money from her.
is he really?
Because in the last couple of weeks, he's wanted to talk about getting a loan from her to help out his business woes. But the subject always got changed too quickly.
Right.
Although Debbie then ended up taking him to see her accountant, and we never really found out what that was about, I don't think. So, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I do like the idea of Ryan and Debbie working together again because they are
Always.
delightful together.
Always. They're great.
Yeah. She's the mum he never had.
And yes, we're not forgetting about you, Michelle.
Although we'd like to. And poor Robert's still in the closet at the funeral.
Yeah, that guy never got a funeral. Yeah, just a little concerned about Carl's motives here. And still concerned about Debbie not speaking to people. And I think our correspondent Cheeky is right that it's going to be all the harder when Ronnie does find out.
It is. It is. I'm really kind of disappointed in her for not telling him.
It seems a un-Debbie thing to do.
Right. And I can kind of understand not telling Kev because he's got cancer,
Sure.
but I would tell Abby.
Mm-hmm.
Because Abby would, she's, speaking of people who carries things on their shoulders, Abby would, do anything for her. And actually, it's not just Ronnie amongst the Baileys that love Debbie. They all love Debbie.
Oh, they all do.
Because Debbie is delightful.
I think most of them prefer her.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, she's the mother they never knew.
And the Aggie they no longer have.
Correct. Just recast.
Just
Just
recast and be done.
recast. And have her show up every once in a while to be comforting and loving and then goes away again.
All right, we'll move on to our final storyline this week. Fuck you, Coronation Street.
Up the ass!
So aggressive. On Monday, Julie is making a recording for Eileen in yet another attempt to sway her away from George. And I'm like, fuck it, what are you doing, Julie? Please stop this.
Yeah.
Eileen
Leave
has asked
George
you
alone.
more than once just to let this go.
It's none of your fucking business, and I don't care that you're dying. Leave
Yeah.
George alone.
I'm not sure when terminally ill people's opinion becomes more important than anybody else's, but
Correct.
She thinks that it does here. Meanwhile, George is trying to plan a spontaneous night with Eileen, but Glenda thinks the corpses in his back room have more spontaneity. George is planning frozen lasagna. Meanwhile, Eileen and Julie are planning their day at the lakes or whatever. Julie gives Todd and him an enormous hug as they leave. And Eileen tries to get hold of George, who was supposed to be driving them, but he's out and about planning for their spontaneous night. But Eileen feels super let down and hangs up on him in a huff. So it's Tim who takes him, with Brian giving Julie a bunch of flowers before they go. Brian's not invited to the girl trip, but Julie gives him another one of her special enormous hugs and
Yes.
thanks him for everything.
Right, yes. Brian, you're not a girl. And also, you're not the most important person in Julie's life.
Right.
That would be Eileen, her sister.
So at the lake, Eileen and Julie sit on their little picnic rug and talk about Julie's conquests. Kirk, Brian, and Dev. Oh la la. What a trio. Julie wouldn't be anywhere else.
Easiest fuck, marry, kill in the history of fuck, marry, kills.
Okay. Go for it.
Fuck Kirk.
No way. You fuck Dev.
Marry Dev.
Marry Kirk.
Marry Dev and kill Brian.
Kill Brian. Definitely kill Brian. But
Kill
you
Brian.
fuck Dev.
Well, if you're married to him, you're going to fuck him eventually anyway.
But you don't want to... You don't want to marry Dev.
You do, because he's got money. And like 4 businesses.
Yeah, but it's also Dev.
Your life would never be boring.
Well, that's true.
And need I bring Dev's Kiwis back up into the conversation again?
And then every 10 months or so, he just disappears back to India for no
Some
apparent reason.
Right, yeah.
Julie wouldn't be anywhere else with anyone else, and she closes her eyes at the breeze. It was a lovely wee scene. Julie lies out and asks Eileen for a cup of tea. So Eileen has to schlep off and leave Julie while she heads back to the concessions. George, meanwhile, is desperately trying to get a hold of Eileen and eventually texts Julie. But wouldn't you know it, Julie's phone buzzes in their front room. So he picks it up.
Why?
And after some brief snooping, he finds a video where Julie tells Eileen that George is a useless sack of shit and encourages her to dump his sorry ass, and basically says exactly that.
Yeah.
George is...
It's the loveliest human being, although he shouldn't be snooping on somebody else's phone.
No, and I think they've made George in some particular ways over the last couple of weeks behave in un-George-like ways. Because I agree, I don't think George would do this.
No.
Eileen heads back to Julie with a couple of teas, but by the time she gets there, it becomes clear that Eileen will be drinking them both.
Yes.
I hope she brought biscuits.
Because that concession stand must be a long way away. A long way away for Julie to say, right, she's far enough away, I'm going to scoop up all these pills and
Well, we don't know
chuck them
that.
down my throat.
We don't know this yet.
Or die naturally, lying there on a rug by a lake.
Later, the paramedics arrive, but thanks to Julie's DNR pendant, there's nothing they could do. But even if there was no DNR, Julie is quite dead by this point.
Yes.
Why now, weeps Eileen, who had more to say.
Right, yeah. And also us. Also us. Why does Julie not get, a nice long send-off and a long illness where we get to see her say goodbye in person to her friends and not watch videos of her on other people's phones?
And why did they make her, in the final day of her life, a annoying busybody?
Right.
Because it seemed like they were doing it towards the end there, actively trying to make us not like Julie anymore.
Everything leading up to this has been Julie saying she's afraid to die.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to die. She wants to get the most out of life while she's still living, and she doesn't want to die alone. These are all things Julie has said in the past couple of weeks. So what happens? She chooses to die alone. This makes no sense.
She has been clearly, and they've exaggerated this
A lot of pain.
quite a bit. She's been in a lot of discomfort over the past few weeks, and every time that she's smiling, she's kind of wincing.
Right.
And I think that's the sort of sign that she didn't have long to go. But yeah, she even last week when she was talking with Christina in the backyard of the Rovers house.
I'm terrified of death.
Right. Less than a week ago.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't really. Later, Julia has been brought back to the Undertaker's Chapel of Rest, and George flexes his fingers because this is where he shines.
Yes.
Eileen thought that they would have more time. George thinks it's probably best that she went this way, not hooked on machines or gasping for breath. I think he's probably right there. She was where she wanted to be and who she wanted to be with and who she loved the most. Eileen thinks that Julie died with more to say. George looks shifty, like he might have deleted that video. But when we get back home, George pretends to find the phone and, oh, what a surprise, there's a video. Wouldn't you like to see it? Eileen is instantly suspicious, so George explains what happened and how it crossed his mind to delete it because of what Julie says. Eileen watches the video and takes some comfort from it and thinks George is a good man for not deleting it. He goes off to let people know and doesn't mention the ramifications for the two of them. He finds Brian in the pub and lets him know what happened, and Brian is heartbroken. Back home, Eileen and Todd are watching Julie's last video again. Eileen is grateful for it, and Todd thinks that she knew that today was the day because she hugged him so tightly. And it was very strange. And he starts to think that, you know what? Maybe she took her own life. On Wednesday, poor Eileen has been up all night, worried that Julie sped her demise along. George thinks that her body just gave up. He wants to talk about the video, but she wants some space, so goes for a walk. At the Undertaker's, George tells Glenda what happened, and she's appalled. George is a good, kind man. Glenda is a good sister here. They're still talking when Eileen comes in, and she's super upset that they've been gossiping about the video messages and won't stand for slagging Julie off now that she's dead. Plus, she has bigger fish to fry than the quality of her relationship with George, and she goes off for another walk. Meanwhile, Brian goes to see Mary and talks about how sad it is that the relationship came to an end so quickly. There's a hole in my heart, he says, and Mary looks like she knows exactly what he's talking about, and he doesn't notice.
Of course not.
He goes to get Julie's meds to return, but when he looks in the wee bag, he's appalled by what he finds. There are no meds there, and there should be plenty.
And there's also a bottle of Eileen's medicine here. What is Eileen taking codeine for?
She fell and damaged her hip, remember?
Oh, that's
she
right.
She slipped on in George's
soup.
juices.
Yes. That he refused to clean off the floor for some reason.
So that could happen.
Right.
He goes to Naylor's Rolls and speaks to Roy and Billy, where he outlines his suspicions that Eileen maybe aided Julie in an assisted suicide. Roy and Billy advise calm, and this, if it did happen, was Julie's choice.
Right.
Brian, though, fancies mansplaining to a dead woman and thinks that he should have been part of the decision-making process, seeing as they were an item for a week and a half.
Right.
Brian thinks Eileen was there right at the end when she wasn't.
Right, yeah, because she'd gone to get a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Sean is passing on his condolences to Eileen, and they arrange to raise a glass in the Rovers later. At the pub, Mary isn't in the mood for drinking, but is quickly convinced to get fucking leathered. And did you watch Summer in this scene?
It's great.
Summer watching.
Summer's in the show again!
And she was funny. She was funny twice.
It was great. I didn't recognize her at first. I was like, who is this person? Oh my God, it's Summer!
Watching her.
I thought she was still in America, going to college on the Boston Green. On the Boston Common.
That was so long ago.
Remember,
at the University of America?
Yeah, Boston Common University.
No, she watches Mary down her drink like, what the fuck are you doing? And then she also has a wee moment at the bar with Mary where she's, did you just say what I think you just said?
Yeah, and
superb.
she did.
That was superb.
It was.
Eileen has just come in when Tinker appears and takes her down to the station as a witness to Julie's death.
And once again, Tinker is sent to get somebody, and that person says, why? And he's like, I think we should talk about this somewhere else. No, tell me now in front of all of these people.
Calls him
Are
Craig
you
as
sure?
well.
Are you sure you want to do that? Do you not want to step outside so we can talk? No, tell me now. All right, we think you killed your sister.
Well done, Tinker. Eileen blames George for this as she gets hauled away, which allows Kirk, Billy, Summer, Mary and Glenda to debate the ins and outs of assisted suicide for about a minute. Well done, ITV.
Right,
Then they did this. When did they do this? They did this like a couple of weeks ago when they had a little public service announcement.
Right, yeah. And Summer has this really nice little thing that she talks about how Paul had asked Billy to help him end his life, but then he died naturally, but it was nice that he had the choice. You know, she didn't want him to die, but he was going to die anyway, so it was important for him to have the freedom to choose.
Then Brian and Roy come in And it quickly comes out that it was Brian who grassed Eileen up.
Yeah, because he's an asshole.
George is fucking furious.
He's like, right, where's my sniper rifle?
I can't miss. It's Swain who's interviewing Eileen, and she points out the meds that are missing and tells Eileen that she'll be interviewed under caution and advises her to lawyer up. Eileen's painkillers were for her hip. They were in Julie's wash bag, so it now looks like Eileen helped her die. Eileen says that she was away from Julie when she died, but there's no witnesses to all this, so it looks pretty sketchy for her. Eileen,
Well, there are witnesses for this because she said there was a long line to get a cup of tea. So there were people who saw her. There are witnesses. The police are just too lazy to go to the car park and ask every single person there if they saw this grumpy old lady getting tea.
right.
Who's not Evelyn.
Well, that describes half of Manchester.
Why is it everyone whose name starts with E is grumpy?
Eileen denies any involvement. Eventually, she's released into George's custody, and he wastes no time in telling her it was Brian what grassed her up.
Yep.
He worries that a post-mortem might reveal an overdose, and if so, Eileen might well be fucked. Eileen is beside herself with worry. On Friday, PC Tinker goes into Nina's roles, clearly happy about something, but no one asks him, so he has to announce that somehow he's managed to wrangle another placement on the CID, and with a bit of luck, this one will kill him. Privately, Todd is worried that George is having doubts about Eileen's innocence, but George is worried about the codeine. He wishes that they'd already embalmed Julie, and then the evidence would be lost. Then it begins to sound like Todd's having doubts, until they both come to the conclusion that Eileen probably did it after all. Tinker drops into the Undertaker's later to let them know that Julie's body will be picked up later today, but Todd blurts out and lies and says that they've already embalmed her. George again is furious and wants to come clean to the cops. Todd mentions that perverting the course of justice might just be enough to get him back into Eileen's good books. George is in. Meanwhile at home, Eileen is going through some of Julie's old stuff. I'm surprised that the cops didn't take more of her belongings and things for clues and what have you. Mary says that she believes Eileen 100%. Surely she wouldn't be so stupid to take Julie to a secluded place to give her a fatal dose of pills. In the Rovers later, Mary talks about wanting a sister and perhaps having sapphic tendencies towards Annie Lennox. She talks about the music video for Here Comes the Rain Again, personal favourite. Back at the Undertaker's, George is embalming Julie to Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Well, Todd dances to it in the other room, which was fantastic.
Yep.
Oh my God, I loved it so much.
But then it's cut short because of the old hearse vandalism from another storyline.
The pink paint on the black hearse.
So while Todd is off dealing with the wanton case of vandalism in another storyline, PC Tinker and the autopsy guy, Ned, I think, come in and find George red-handed with a pair of adjustable retractors about to start Julie's embalming.
Well, I think he's already started. I'm assuming she's draining at the moment. Well,
he comes out with the retractors
these
like
little clipper things,
like he's in Hostel.
And his apron is completely clean.
Yeah, which is because he hasn't started yet.
Nothing on it.
George claims that he wasn't there when Todd and Tinker were talking about Julie's body, even though he blatantly was. He's like, nope,
that
wasn't
me.
there. Julie's body is eventually taken away by Ned, the autopsy guy, who George knows.
Yeah,
because
he's another funeral director.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a nice little Ned, George.
Right.
Just a nice little moment.
Because I guess that's what happens. They don't do autopsies at the police station? At the morgue at the police station?
Oh, the body's getting taken away.
Right, yeah, but it's going to another funeral home for the autopsy.
I think the autopsy guy is maybe a former undertaker, or who knows?
No, because Craig says, I'm coming to get the body to take it to this other funeral home for the autopsy. And
I
was
don't
like,
think it says that, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Somehow Tracy gets a hold of all this information about George getting lifted by the fuzz and embalming Julie's body to destroy evidence, and takes utter glee to announce it all in front of the Rovers.
Yeah,
and especially Eileen.
A little too much glee. A little too much. I like sassy Tracy. I like murderous Tracy. I don't really like cruel, Tracy.
This was just bitch, Tracy.
Yeah, this was just cruelty 101.
Eventually, George is released and gets home, and although he's confident somehow that he's convinced him that he was innocent, he didn't get the job done. Eileen is furious that he and Todd have made her look more guilty, and worst of all, think that she helped Julie take her own life. Todd doesn't think it's that outlandish a thought and suggests that they all stick together. In other news, though, Eileen announces out of the blue that Julie had a life insurance policy and it's all coming to Eileen. Brian comes in to
Which is only right and fair.
Yeah, but...
As her next of kin.
Yes, but just wait. Brian comes in to tell him that he's retracted his statement, but it's still not going to stop the investigation.
Nope.
Eileen tells Brian that Julie left him a Keats poetry book. So Brian looks to the middle distance and says, "Hither, hither, hither, love its boon has sent, and if I dine with her, I shall die content."
That's our boring moment of the week.
Eileen doesn't tell him about the insurance policy dividend because it's none of his fucking business.
It is none of his fucking business.
But George scowls at her for this.
Right, yeah, because Brian says, did she leave anything else to anyone? And she says, no, not really, like bits and bobs, and also it's none of your fucking business.
Privately, Eileen tells George that this insurance payout
Would be a motive.
has now provided her with a motive, and George and Todd look like her accomplices.
Yes,
she
because
hurls
the whole autopsy thing.
She hurls a glass at George and tells him to fuck off, which Julie does. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Yes. Poor George.
Yeah, poor George.
I mean, he has done some asshole things.
And this was stupid.
Yeah. Because he knows how long it takes to embalm a body. It's not short.
And do you think another undertaker will know how long this body has been embalmed for?
Right, exactly.
Or will look at it and think, wait a minute, the embalming fluid is still pouring out of their nose. I think you just did this.
Right, yeah. I mean, it takes forever just to drain the body, and then you have to fill it back up. And you have to take some of the organs out and stuff. And do all the other things, and sew things back up, and everything.
Interfere with it. And
Well, no. No, he wouldn't do that with Julie's body.
I don't think so.
No.
Not with Julie's body.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's keeping old Roberts in the back there. But
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. You're right. A lot of the things that George does this week feels not George-like. Although, let's not forget, he was a real dick to his sister like 6 months ago.
Oh, sure.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when he was a real dick to Glenda?
Yep.
And seemed to think that he knew better what her needs were and everything? And she went and bought little big shots anyway and then promptly forgot about it?
Yeah, maybe he was right.
I'm not really loving the path that it seems like they're taking for Eileen's departure.
No, so we had sort of imagined that she and Julie would go off into the
sunset together.
And then Eileen just wouldn't come back.
Right. And then maybe we'll eventually come back in a couple of years or something.
But if we could have put some money on this, Helen, how much money would we put on it for Julie's story here to become a hospital story and then become a police story?
Right? Yeah.
It's just so fucking predictable.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And I hate Eileen getting dragged to the cop shop for this as she's grieving her sister and this whole thing. And poor Roy. It's his wife's birthday and she's dead.
And being a metaphor for everybody.
Right, and been a metaphor for everybody. But also in trying to steer Brian the correct way and also be comforting to Eileen and the rest of the family, he can't disclose the fact that he helped her die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one person besides Billy who would really kind of understand Eileen's position. Although Eileen didn't know, at least Paul had the decency to talk to Billy about it beforehand.
Well, here's the other thing I'm finding hard to believe.
It feels hard to believe that Julie would be so inconsiderate to kind of...
She's making videos about everything else.
Right.
Make a video about this, about what your plans are.
Right, yeah. And maybe Do it at home. Don't do it like in the middle of nowhere by a lake where, it's extremely inconvenient.
Well, she doesn't care. She's dead. I quite like the fact that it was.
That's the thing.
I liked that it was al fresco.
Julie would care.
Yeah, I suppose. she
Julie
would think
was a
about it.
very caring, loving character. And yet, you would not believe that in the way she has totally fucked her family by choosing to die in this way. When last week she was talking about how terrified she is to die and wants to enjoy every day.
Yeah, I agree. It's an odd way for her to go out, and an inconsiderate way for her to go out. And she's gone out almost with the intention of creating as much damage as possible to her family. I mean, what else could she have done to make this any worse for the people that she's leaving behind?
Right?
I just find it hard to square that she wouldn't leave a note or she wouldn't leave a message of some nature. What, though, I was quite pleased about was there was bits of humour all the way through this.
Yes.
And it was humour that I felt was working for the most part. The Mary stuff I thought was great. Like I said, Summer's reactions were absolutely priceless. You've got the love will tear us apart bit. I kind of did wish that it was just a little bit longer.
Yes.
And that the music was just a little bit louder.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a
And that
great
Todd
scene.
had danced just a little bit longer.
But I thought it was a great scene, and the tiny little interactions between Ned and George are
Ned?
Ned the autopsy guy.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was like, who's Ned?
They were so throwaway. Like, you wouldn't have missed them if they weren't there. But the fact that they took the time to let you know that Ned and George know each other was just a nice touch.
Yeah.
So there were bits in it that I thought they did pretty well. But it's a complaint that I've had for a while and for a number of storylines is that the way that they kick it off, the way they kick the story off, it's almost like there's not the attention to detail to make that believable.
Right.
But once they get it going, so long as you forget about how this started, you're probably going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the way that they start the storylines, it hampers my full enjoyment because bits of it don't make sense. Like, after Julie dies, the course of the story is fine, but what they make happen to make this happen doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that she would do this to her family. It doesn't make sense that she wouldn't leave some kind of warning or some kind of tip-off to the police or something that would mean that Eileen's not going to get into trouble for this and George isn't going to get into trouble for this.
So now he has to go back to his dusty old house.
Yeah, she was proper
Yeah.
chucking him out.
Yeah. She threw something at him.
She threw a glass at his head. If
That
that was Brian,
broke.
that was making contact.
Yes. George has a slightly smaller head,
Mm-hmm.
and also his head is higher up.
It takes more effort to get the glass that
Right.
high.
So,
Did you think it was a strange way to end that scene? You've got the big explosion of the glass hitting the wall, and then she yells at George to get out. Get out!
get out!
And then you see George kind of sneaking out,
Yeah.
and then it finished. It
Right.
felt like it should have ended with a glass and Eileen shouting to get out, and then that's it.
Get out!
The George creeping on his tiptoes out,
Yeah.
just a little bit weird, I felt.
It was unnecessary.
But does any of this help with Eileen's exit story? Which, remember, this is what all this is an aid of.
Right, yes. I don't know. Does she go to prison?
I don't think she's going to prison, is she?
I hope not.
The door was getting left open for her, though, right?
Yeah.
She's not getting killed off, I don't think.
No.
Wasn't Jason coming back?
Yeah. And he didn't make it back in time to see Julie before she died. That's sad.
So there's more mileage in this.
Yes.
One would think maybe significantly more mileage.
One would hope.
Maybe sufficient mileage to think that the Julie aspect of it was completely unnecessary. I don't know. Sad to see Julie go.
Yes. And her sweaters.
And her her comeback was fairly brief. I wish they hadn't made her fairly annoying in her final days.
And a busybody.
But such a welcome sight to have back on the street. And
Yes.
you just regret the fact that it is just such a short return.
Correct.
And a short return that is basically there to get another police storyline going, and people hating Swain for questioning Eileen, even though it looks dead suspicious. You've got to say it looks dead suspicious. It's fine for Swain to be thinking this.
When you learned that Julie sent her away to get tea and she was completely alone when it happened, it's less suspicious
According
that
to
Eileen.
Eileen.
Right, but she told the paramedics that she had just left to get some tea, and when she came back, she was deceased. So, and you can't tell me there's no CCTV at the lakes.
You get CCTVs in the countryside now?
At least in the car park with all of the trailers selling tea and shit.
I think that maybe there would be something round about the wherever she got the tea from.
Right. I'm assuming it's kind of like when we went to the giant horse head thing, where we went and saw the giant horse heads in Scotland.
Oh, the Kelpies.
The Kelpies, yes. When we went to see the Kelpies, which are amazing, and if you go to Scotland, go see the Kelpies.
Which had Idris Elba floating over the top of them.
But then there's the car park, and as you're walking to the Kelpies, there's all these little trailers selling, tea and other things. Because we got a cup of tea, and I got a piece of Rocky Road after we went to see the Kelpies. And we sat and we drank tea, and I ate my Rocky Road in the shadow of the Kelpies. So I'm assuming it's kind of like that.
This must have been some incredible Rocky Road. This was 11 years ago.
I don't fuck around when it comes to Rocky Road.
It's kind of scary a little bit. And impressive. I don't remember the cup of tea. I remember the Kelpies.
Yes.
And I remember the obligatory photograph that you use perspective to make it look like you're feeding the Kelpies.
Right, yes. Or the Kelpies are eating you. Or you're punching the Kelpies.
Yeah.
It's like if we went to Italy, to Pisa, and pretended to be pushing the Leaning Tower back up.
You've just got to. I
You
mean,
just
I know
got to.
it makes you like 150% tourist, but
Right, yeah, and everybody does it.
you've got to.
Or when you go to Fargo and get your picture taken with the wood chipper,
All right, we're stretching a little bit now.
which you absolutely can do. Go to Fargo, to the visitor center, and get your picture taken with the wood chipper. 10 out of 10 would do again. They probably don't have the hats anymore, though.
All right. You seem to have grown bored with us, so let's wrap this one up then and say that was the week that was Coronation Street.
It
Helen,
was.
what was your moment of the week?
God. I really want to say it's Todd dancing to Joy Division, but it can't be Todd dancing to Joy Division. It was my moment of the week, Todd dancing to Joy Division. And it's not really Julie's death, because Julie's death happens off camera, which again is another thing that kind of pisses me off, that we don't get that.
Yeah, you did get the heartfelt moment though of Eileen coming back and comforting her, and
Well, she
not
doesn't
really
comfort her because she's
but-
dead.
yeah, but she cuddles her.
Yeah,
That was quite sweet.
yeah.
It
I
was,
liked.
where my mind went when the paramedic said, "We'll let you have some time alone," and they kind of leave.
This is when you drink your cup of tea.
It reminded me of going to the Grand Canyon, and you stand and you admire the Grand Canyon for 10, 15 minutes, and you go, right,
Right.
then, let's go.
We've seen
It's
it.
like-
And then you drive along so you can see different angles of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, well, you wanted to do that.
I wanted to hike down, but there was no way. There was no way you would survive that.
I don't think you would have survived either.
And then I was making you very anxious because I kept getting closer and closer to the edge.
Yeah. Anyway, your moment of the week.
Eileen and Julie before the cup of tea, when they're laying by the lake and talking about how comfortable camping chairs are and stuff. It was a really sweet moment between two sisters, and I really liked it.
That's our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
and boring moment.
Brian quoting Keats.
boring moment of the week.
Well, that almost rhymes. Brian quoting Keats as a boring moment of the week.
Yes. Keats? Really? You went with Keats and not W.H. Auden when it comes to funerary poetry? Come on, Coronation Street.
Yay!
Time to talk about our non-scientific weekly Twitter poll now, the Yay Meh Z. This is where I ask our Twitter followers to tell us what they thought about this week's episodes. How would they vote? Yay, meh, or Z? And it is a close one at the moment. This poll still has like 12 hours or 18 hours to run or whatever. This is, at the moment, is 30.2%. Meh is 32.1%. And yay is 37.7%. So it's a narrow-ish position for yay at the moment, but that could all change. And you know, even if it does, it doesn't really matter because we don't let that sway our scores in any way. So Helen, what score would you give this week's episodes out of 10?
It wasn't a bad week necessarily.
No, I don't think it was a bad week at all.
We got no Daniel.
No Daniel.
No Ken. And only an amuse-bouche of Kev.
And no
So-
STC.
Yeah.
Very pleased about that.
Yes.
A little
So-
bit of the racist Kelly storyline, but I did enjoy that, especially on Friday's episode.
Right, yeah. It's a bit of a nothing burger, but it was fun while it
It's good fun.
lasted. And we got to see Bobby.
But wait,
Fun. 6.5.
I think I gave it an 8 last week. It's not an 8.
No.
Maybe give it a 7. No, well, 6.5 as well, I think. Yeah, it was a decent enough week. Just there's little bits and pieces about the Julie stuff that's not
Yeah.
really working for me, and
Right, exactly.
I think it was the bits that were happening round about that storyline that
Yes.
were the more interesting parts. So, but yeah, not bad at all. All right, we'll wrap this one up then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J, Fiona B, Canadian Jennifer, and Josephino Tingy. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. We very much appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
If you've ever embalmed a body at pace, write in to tell us about it. Go to talkofthestreet@gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Or reach us the old-fashioned way, the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes of your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
It's Grammy season.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
The Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.